מבקש מכל מילה טובה, לחיות כאיש אחד ולהודות לעד על כל מה שיבוא באהבה, לראות למרחקים שיש ימים טובים שמחכים רק לשעה יפה, לרגע חשיכה יש רגע של ברכה ואין לו כמו כוחה של
Rabotai, welcome back to another class of Dalad Amot shel Halacha and Ola Kadosh Baruch Hu be'olama ela arba Amot shel Halacha bilvad. We are continuing in Siman Reish Tzadik Tet in Halacha Chet. This will be part 1 of the Halacha. Before we do begin, I spoke to Rabbi Dahani yesterday about what he brought down in the Amodei Hora'am. If you guys recall, we saw in the Amodei Hora'am in Siman Kuf Ayin Dalet and Halacha Dalet in Ot Vav, that the Shulchan Aruch said, Hilkach HaMavdil Kodem Nitila, therefore, one is going to go ahead and do Havdalah before the washing of the hands, Yichaven Shelo Lehotzi Yain, have kavanah not to take out the obligation of the wine, Shebitoch HaSudah, which is going to be in the middle of the meal. So we explained yesterday that when you're doing the kos shel havdalah, the best thing to do is to have kavanah that the blessing of Borei Peri Geffen is only going for this cup, and it's not including this cup of wine that I'm going to have in the bread meal. That's what the Shulchan Aruch said. So we said after that once you do that, now when I'm going to go ahead and drink my cup of wine during the meal, the blessing I'm going to say is Borei Peri Geffen. Fine. We saw in the Mishnah Berurah Tziv Katan Tet Vav, he says, Ve'az yivarech bracha achrona al kozeh kodem hasuda. Then go bless the after blessing, the Allah Geffen, Al Peri Geffen, and the kos of the Havdalah. Then go ahead and begin your meal. We saw in the Amodei Hora'ah, he brought the psak of the Kavachaim and Rav David Yosef Shlita that they also want to learn, like the Mishnah Berurah, that when I have open kavanah to exclude this cup of wine and to only include this cup of wine, you're going to, after you finish drinking, you drink 3 ounces, 8 revi'it. Once you drink 8 revi'it, you're going to go say the after blessing, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam, Allah Geffen V'al Peri Geffen. Once you did that, now when you come into this cup, you're able to say the bracha of Borei Peri Geffen. This is the opinion of the Mishnah Berurah, the Kavachaim, and Rav David Yosef Shlita. But we saw over here, Avla Yalkut Yosef, Pasak de'en levarech bracha achrono. The Yalkut Yosef, he made a Pasak halacha not to bless the after blessing and the kos shel havdalah, kodem hasuda, before the meal, Kevin the sosov ayan gorer ha'achila v'niftar beberkat hamazon. The safek brachot lakel. Because the bottom line is, when I'm drinking the kos shel havdalah, when I'm drinking the wine of the kos shel havdalah, it opens up my appetite to be able to have this meal. So in a way, it is connected to this meal. Now, Rabotai, you have to understand where the problem is over here. So he says over here that the blessing of Birkat HaMazon is going to exempt the Allah Geffen Al Peri Geffen of the after blessing for the kos shel havdalah. Fine. Because it says Safek Brachot Lakel. Whenever you have a doubt to bless or not to bless, we're going to tell you really not to bless. I spoke to Rabbi Dahani yesterday and I said, Kodorav, I don't fully understand the piece. Because once I finished, I asked myself 1 second, because I looked into the Yalkut Yosef, like I read it for you guys yesterday in the previous class, and I said 1 second, it doesn't make sense. If I am going right now and I'm having open kavanah, not to include this cup of wine, that means I should say the after blessing after this cup of wine. Why am I allowing the Birkat HaMazon to take effect on this after blessing? And not only that, how am I going to go ahead and bless another blessing if that Birkat Hamazon is exempting this after blessing. I was a little bit confused. I spoke to Rabbi Dahan yesterday. First of all, I thanked him very much for the beautiful work that he put together. He started blessing me. He said, thank you, whatever. We went back and forth. But I spoke to the rabbi. I said, Kodorav, I want to try to understand this halacha clear. I understand that the beginning blessings and the end blessings, that one has nothing to do with another. Meaning that if a person went ahead and he drank this cup of tea, he remembers he didn't say shahakol, but he drank 3 ounces. Tea is a bad example because you can't drink hot tea 3 ounces. Let's say it was water or any other liquid, whatever. What happens if I drink it at one shot without saying the bracha of shahakol niya b'dvoro? Do I say the after blessing, yes or no? So the halacha is very simple. Of course you say the after blessing. What does one thing have to do with another? So I said, but I'm not 100% sure what's going on over here. Over here, I'm having the kol shel havdalah over here. I'm having kavanah not to include this. So what are you doing? You don't want me to say the bracha achron on this because of safek brachot lakel. But you do want me to go ahead and say the bracha b'rei pregeven on this. You guys hear my question one more time? The Shulchan Aruch says, if a person is doing havdalah prior to washing of the hands, he should exclude this cup of wine. Don't include it in the blessing with the kol shel havdalah. So you can go back and re-bless. So good. Now that I want nothing to do with this, the correct thing to do is Borei Priya Geffen, and after I drink 3 ounces, to say Allah Geffen Al Priya Geffen, the after blessing. That is the correct procedure. Like the Mishabur, like the Kavachaim, like Rav David Yosef Shlita, that they all say that. You should say the after blessing, then wash your hands, have your meal, say Borei Priya Geffen. That's it. And then when you're going to say Birkat Hamazon, that Birkat Hamazon is going to cover for this cup of wine that you had to say Allah Geffen Al Priya Geffen. That I could understand because that's inside the meal. But this I don't understand, I explained. I'm putting my mind only on this, taking my mind off of that, and somehow I'm allowing that Birkat Hamazon to help me for the Allah Geffen over here, and on top of that I still have to go ahead and bless the blessing Borei Priya Geffen. So he said, it's very good, whatever, the question is very good, but at the same time he wanted to explain, he said like this, you have to understand that since the blessings, meaning the before and after blessing, have nothing to do with each other, so even when I went ahead and I had open kavanah not to include this cup of wine, I have to go ahead and now say the bracha Borei Priya Geffen. But if I'm not including this cup of wine, how is that Birkat Hamazon going to go ahead and now take my obligation out over here? Because he's explained, like he said over here, since by you drinking this wine, it opens up your appetite. So really it is connected in some way to the meal. It's just basically we're giving you 50-50. This what you said, you don't want to include this bracha, you don't want to include this glass of wine inside this bracha. Good, bless Borei Priya Geffen. But this that we tell you don't have to say the after blessing is because of the concept of safek brachot lakel. Since in reality, by you drinking this cup of wine, it actually opens up your appetite. So it has something to do with this cup of wine. But I excluded this cup of wine. Since we have a suffix to go back and forth whether to bless the after blessing or not, he tells you don't bless the after blessing and allow the Birkat Hamazon blessing to exempt the kol shel havdalah. Rabotai, we have to understand it like this. The bottom line is, halachically we're going to say like this. If a person went ahead, let's try to just do a small review. Halacha. In this case, he said we're going to go for sure with Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita because I also had to do the Amodei Hora'ah, and I'm sorry, and the Biur Hora'ah in Od Chavbet. He also asked me, did you do the Biur Hora'ah? I did do it. But he brings over there proofs why the halacha should be like Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita. But halachically, we're going to say like this. Step number 1. We want a person, when he's doing the bracha of Borei Priya Geffen and the kol shel havdalah, we want him to exclude this cup of wine. When I wash my hands, eat my bread, and now I want to go ahead and have this cup of wine, do I bless? Yes, you're going to bless the blessing of Borei Priya Geffen. Whatever happened to the after blessing for this Koshal of Dalah, don't worry. The blessing of Birkat HaMazon that you can do eventually is going to cover the after blessing that you did, that you were supposed to do for this cup. Why is that? Because since by me drinking this cup of wine, even though I excluded this cup of wine from the blessing, but by me drinking this cup of wine, it opened up my appetite for the meal. So in a way, it is partial, it's part of the meal. So allow the Birkat HaMazon to come and take out your obligation for the after blessing. That's Rabotai, step number 1. That's going to be the halacha, like Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita. Step number 2, what happens if a person had no kavanah at all? He went, he did Havdalah, now he sat down to have the bread meal. His wife says, let's have wine. What do you mean, let's have wine? Do I say the blessing? Don't I say the blessing? We're going to tell you, don't say the blessing. Again, safek barachot la'akel. Don't say the blessing. Oh, what about the after blessing if you drank 3 ounces from the koshal of Dalah? Don't say the after blessing. Allow the Birkat HaMazon to do its job. That's going to be Rabotai, the halacha, those 2 points in short, how we're going to follow halacha. Just wanted to get that out of the way because it was really bothering me yesterday, and it's very nice that I was able to speak to him, a very humongous Talmud Chacham, Rabotai. Okay. We are starting our halacha today. In Siman Reish Tzadik Tet, halacha Chet, new halacha, part 1 like we mentioned. The Shulchan Aruch begins. כשפוטר היין, כשפוטר היין שבתוך המזון, when you're going to exempt the wine that is inside your meal, שאין צריך לברך עליו, that you don't need to bless on it. Now, before we do continue, what does that mean? כשפוטר היין שבתוך המזון, when you're going to exempt the wine which is inside your meal, שאין צריך לברך עליו, you don't have to bless on the wine, meaning you don't have to go back and say Borei Priya Geffen on this cup of wine. So I want to explain to you like this. Remember in Halacha Zayin, we had over there 2 cases, the Stam and the Yesh. So if we look into the Tur says something interesting, which is like, wow. The Tur in Siman Reish Tzadik Tet, in Halacha Zayin, he doesn't even bring this machlokut. He says, the Tur says one-liner, Hamavdil al yain, one who makes Havdalah on a cup of wine, al shulchano, on his table, poter hayayin shebetoch hamazon. He exempts the wine that's going to be inside the meal. She'en tzarich levarech alav. That's all he says, and you don't need to bless on it. So we see over here, what does that mean that he's going to exempt the wine? How do you exempt the wine? So now when we come back over here, we have to apply the halacha zayin according to the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch said that there's 2 cases you can have. First case is hamavdil al yain al shulchano. First case was when you went ahead and you did havdalah on the kos. When you went ahead and you did havdalah on this kos shel yain, and you didn't wash your hands prior to it. You first did the havdalah, then you wash your hands. This over here, by me doing havdalah, then washing my hands, this exempts this. This cup of the kos shel havdalah is going to exempt this kos shel yain. That's one way you can understand kishepoter yain. When you're going to exempt this cup of wine inside the meal where you don't have to bless, why don't I have to bless? How am I exempting it? Because I am doing havdalah on this cup of wine before washing the hands. Like the Stam opinion, where it says that it helps. But then I can learn another way, kishepoter yain shebetoch hamazon, like the second opinion. Like the Yeshomrim that tell you first have to wash your hands. So again, if I went ahead and I washed my hands for the bread meal, like we explained in the Mishnah Berurah that the washing of the hands is the beginning of establishing yourself a meal and it's connected to the meal. So good, now when I'm doing the Havdalah, so one more time, I washed my hands. After washing my hands, I'm doing the Havdalah. So it's as if I'm already inside the meal. So once I'm inside the meal, it's as if this wine is able to come and to exempt this cup of wine where I don't have to bless on it. So there's 2 ways you can learn the word kishepoter. We're going to include halacha zayin, the stam, and the yesh into halacha chet. Whichever way you want to go, Doesn't matter. But bottom line, we're going to see if you have to bless after blessing on this. And by the way, I'm happy I did that with you guys in Siman Kuf Ayin Daled. Halacha Daled, that was very important because we'll see over here, we're going to have the same machloket again between the Kavachim Rav David Yosef Shlita and Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef. Okay. So, one more time. Siman Reish Tzadik Tet, Halacha Chet. Keshepoter hayan shebetoch hamazon, when you're going to exempt the wine that's inside your meal, she'en tzarich levarech alav, that you don't need to bless on it, gam ein tzarich levarech brocha achrona, you also don't need to bless the after blessing, al kos shel havdalah, on the cup of wine, on the cup of wine of havdalah. Yeah, let's keep it like this, Rabotai, I can make it simpler. Ve'im lo elo kos echad, if he only had one cup of wine where he was going to do havdalah on it, ve'savur, and he thought sheyaviu lo yan yoter, and he thought they're going to bring him more wine for the middle when he was going to have the bread meal. They're going to bring him more wine in the middle of the meal. Ve'hivdil al oto kos, and you did havdalah on this cup of wine. Ve'achar kach lo hiviu lo yoter, afterwards they didn't bring you no more. This cup doesn't belong to you now. There's no cup. You didn't have no wine in the middle of your meal. What is the Shulchan Aruch? How is the Shulchan Aruch going to paskin? He tells you like this: Ubereh birkat hamazon bilokos, and you went ahead and you blessed birkat hamazon without having a cup of wine in your hand because you have no wine. Yesh mi shomer, there's someone that wants to say shetzarich levarech bracha achrona, you need to bless after blessing al kos shel havdalah,